You're sitting there looking at your bank account. You worked the whole month. You were careful. You didn't overspend, and somehow the number still doesn't feel right. Then your phone buzzes. It's a message from home. And somewhere in that message, there's a mention of money. Maybe it's indirect, maybe it's direct, but you feel it. That low-grade anxiety that you can't explain to anyone who hasn't been there. Hi, I am Hughie. I've been in crypto, Forex, taken some real wins, absorbed some ugly losses, and the one financial pressure nobody talks about honestly is this one. If that just felt uncomfortably familiar, you might want to subscribe. So let's actually talk about this. Not with guilt, not with judgment, just with honesty. Because the question isn't really whether your parents expect your money. The real question is, why does it feel so complicated when they do? Here's what's actually happening right now. The average young working adult is earning more in nominal terms than any generation before them. But after rent, food, transport, and basic bills, the leftover is shrinking. Inflation didn't wait. Cost of living didn't pause. And the gap between what you earn and what you actually keep is quietly getting smaller every year. So when financial responsibility to family enters the picture, it lands on a foundation that's already under pressure. That's not weakness, that's just the math. Now here's where it gets more layered. In a huge portion of households across South Asia, the Middle East, Europe, Africa, and immigrant communities globally, supporting parents isn't unusual. It's expected. Not as a conversation, not as a negotiated agreement, just expected. Silently, permanently. And the reason it creates so much tension isn't because people don't want to help. It's because nobody ever mapped out what that actually looks like financially. Think about it like this. Imagine you take home the equivalent of a decent monthly salary. After your fixed costs, rent, utilities, transport, food, you're left with maybe 20 to 25% of that for everything else. Savings, emergencies, your future, some breathing room. Now imagine a regular portion of that goes home every month. Without a defined amount, without a set end date. What you're left with isn't just less money, it's less margin for error. And in today's economy, margin for error is basically the whole game. One unexpected bill, one slow month, one small emergency, and suddenly you're not just tight, you're behind. This is the part that doesn't make it into conversations at the dinner table. Not because anyone is hiding it, but because the system was never designed for these conversations to be easy. There's something else going on underneath this. For a lot of parents, especially those who sacrifice significantly to raise their children, money from their kids isn't just financial. It carries meaning. It's a signal that the sacrifice worked, that the investment paid off. And that's not manipulation. That's deeply human. But here's the uncomfortable part. When the financial expectation is emotional rather than logical, it becomes almost impossible to negotiate. Because you're not negotiating a number, you're navigating a feeling. And that dynamic can silently drain someone for years before they even name what's happening. So what's the actual reality here? The reality is this. Most people in this situation are not choosing between being selfish or being generous. They're caught between two legitimate financial realities that were never designed to coexist. Their own economic pressure and their family's expectations. Neither is wrong. Both are real. But without clarity, without actual numbers on a table, the tension just compounds silently month after month. And here's what makes this a 2025 problem specifically. Previous generations could absorb this pressure more easily. Housing was cheaper relative to income. Inflation was slower. Financial stability came sooner. Today, the window between starting to earn and actually feeling financially stable has stretched out significantly. The average person in their mid-20s to early 30s is not where their parents were at that age financially. They're starting later, paying more, and carrying more uncertainty. So the expectation that was manageable a generation ago lands differently now. This is why the conversation has to change. Not because family responsibility doesn't matter, it clearly does, but because a conversation that was never had becomes a pressure that never leaves. And pressure without structure doesn't build anything. It just quietly limits everything. So here's the question I want to leave you with. If no one ever sat you down and explained how much you can actually give without breaking your own financial foundation, how would you even know where the line is? Because most people don't know, and the system wasn't built to help them figure it out. If you want to understand how money actually works in the real world, subscribe. This is Hughie Capital.